just moved locations, and basically what we got here is a little deeper creek. You know, there's 40, 50, 60 foot out here in this creek, and it's the real sharp walls, and I've tried with no success throwing reaction baits and stuff. So another great bait this time of year to throw for, you know, slower presentation and just see if those fish are in these areas and they're just not biting the reaction bait. We're just gonna go ahead and throw a Senko just kind of down this bank. You know, there's some tulies, there's these little flat running out points where they spawn. So, you know, a lot of times you just, basically you're just dead sticking a Senko. You just throw it out there, you know, and just basically do nothing to the bait, you know, and the biggest thing when you're throwing a Senko weightless like that is to really pay attention to your line, because they won't just pound it. I mean, a lot of times there'll be a pressure bite, or you see your line just moving, you know, to either side, and that's when they got it. You know, this time of year I like throwing a bigger Senko. Right now I'm throwing a 6-inch. A lot of times I'll throw a 7-inch, you know, depending on where I'm fishing at that day. But it's a hard way to fish for me, because I like to go and power fish. But a lot of times, you know, you get some big fish, you know, slowing down, taking your time, catching those big lethargic females that are setting up to spawn. So we'll just kind of ease our way down through here to see what happens. Well, I've kind of worked through this area, you know, and I can't reiterate how important a Senko is this time of year. You know, I mean, the water temp in this creek right here is 53.5, and they should be biting this kind of bait. You know, it's very important though to fish it slow. I mean, this is not a fast moving bait, especially this time of year, you know, and you just gotta be really patient and, you know, just do nothing to the bait, basically. Let the bait do the work for you. You know, here at this lake right now, the water clarity is kind of somewhat clear. So I opt for, like, you know, a watermelon black flake, green pumpkins. Watermelon red flake is probably one of my favorite colors. You know, if the water was stained, catch a ton of fish this time of year throwing black with blue flake. I mean, it's basic, something that the fish can find, and, you know, I can't tell you how many big ones I've caught on black blue flake, jigs, worms, you know, now the Senko. You know, this time of year I kind of like to concentrate on the points leading into the spawning grounds. So basically I'm fishing 2 to, you know, 13, 14, 15 foot max, and just kind of, you know, just when that bait hits the bottom, just pick it up and just move it just, you know, a couple feet and let it fall back down to the bottom. And a lot of times, you know, that slow presentation will trigger those fish to bite, because it's right there in their face and it's a natural bait. So, but I'm kind of getting towards the end of this creek now. I'm gonna pick up a reaction bait and see if I can't catch one that's already back in here. Go with my swim jig. You know, swim jig this time of year, you know, it's kind of been hit and miss for me. I've done really good, and then sometimes they just don't want to bite it. But I really think it's you know, it goes along with a spinner bait, or, you know, a crankbait type of thing. But, you know, if you have an area of the lake or a smaller lake that you're fishing, it's getting a lot of pressure, and everybody's throwing a spinner bait or you know, the same crankbait, sometimes you can go in those same areas with a swim jig and catch them. You know, again, I this time of year I stick to crawfish or bluegill patterns even on my swim jig, and basically I'm fishing this a little deeper in the 5 to 10 foot zone. You know, this is a 3/8 ounce swim jig, and you know, in the summer or post spawn, when those fish get in the grass and they're living shallower, usually I throw like a 1/4 ounce. But this time of year, I kind of just make a cast, you know, in 5 to 10, 12 feet of water, let it hit the bottom, and then work it back to the boat from there, and kind of maintaining bottom contact, and it'll catch you some big fish. You know, and a lot of times, you know, you're fishing like dead grass or dead tulies in this instant, or, you know, you could swim it around laydowns, things of that nature. So it's a really good, effective bait to cover a lot of water with this time of year. You know, when I'm throwing a Senko, I kind of let the size of the bait that I'm fishing dictate what size line I'm throwing. For instance, you know, today I'm throwing a 6-inch Senko. I was throwing it on 15, and if the water would have been more stained and I was going to throw, say, the black and blue Senko or something like that, I would have gone up to even 17. And it always has to be fluorocarbon, just because fluorocarbon sinks. And with monofilament, you don't want the bait to rise or sit. You want it to kind of flutter down just like it normally does, and that little bit of action is what gets you bit. So, you know, the rod I was throwing today is an 804. It's just an 8-foot 4-power Pal Max casting rod. And, you know, if I was throwing, say, a 5-inch Senko, I would have gone to a 704, 7-foot 4-power rod. And it's got the right tip to detect those strikes and a lot of backbone to set the hook, you know, if you're around grass or whatever. And especially when you Texas rig these, because there's quite a bit of plastic for the hook to go through. I'm putting it on a brand new Revo Premier for this year. Really light, really you know, sensitive and smooth for your Senko fishing. All right, well, we just run down the lake and we pull up on another spot I couldn't pass up. You know, basically we're in some matted vegetation, or in this case tules again, and you can really see the difference in what I was talking about earlier, like blankets of vegetation. I mean, there's a lot of like sparse little holes and stuff where a fish could be sunning,